Let's head on over to the SEC and let Cole talk about South Carolina and Missouri. How much does Shane Beamer need a miracle in this one?
I don't think he needs a miracle. I just think the bottom line is that right now, without Lenore Sellers and the status of him, as we're recording, the injury report has not come out. And Shane Beamer said that they would announce what his status was going into this week on the injury report. We don't know if Sellers is going to be playing in this matchup. Bottom line is that there are some questions on the offensive line, massive questions that I don't think are going to be solved. Questions at the wide receiver position, whether it's you're not giving enough reps to Jared Brown and Mazeo Bennett because you like the freshmen. The freshmen aren't delivering on their end of the bargain, so maybe they have to see more of a veteran feel. Same thing with the tight end position with with a Hunt versus going up with a Michael Smith. But regardless, in my opinion, you have a shot offensively because of who is your quarterback. Lenore Sellers is Superman. He can do whatever he wants in the backfield. And sometimes you just sit back and wonder, how is he able to continuously make play after play after play? It's just something that you just prepare for if you're a defensive coordinator. But if he's not out there and you're turning to Luke Doty once again, this is a matchup against a very, very good and revamped Mizzou defense that has really responded in so many different facets since that first quarter against Kansas. They definitely feel like they are going to create some turnovers. They got a good pass rush headlined by Damon Wilson. The linebackers have done an exceptional job of playing in the right coverage systems to where they're not leaning too far out and giving up too many yards after contact. They're hitting at the right time. It's form-fitting tackling. Corey Batoon's been one of the more underrated hires in the SEC and really college football, I would say, for the last 2 years, for how well he's acclimated himself to fitting in place of Blake Baker. From the standpoint of Mizzou offensively, can you set tempo in this game? What are we going to see from this running back tandem of Jamal Roberts and Ahmad Hardy? Hardy's proven at this point he's good enough to be an all-world running back. It's not he's a good G5 running back that plays a complementary role at Mizzou. He is a great running back that just has made his mark, over 250 yards last week. Jamal Roberts, though, has done a good job of being a good balanced contact piece on being that second element. He gets to the outside corner, he's off to the races. So you got to feel confident in him. And then Bo Prabula, from a standpoint of how well he has built a rapport with multiple receivers in the red zone. Him and Brett Norfleet are just connecting. You look at Kevin Coleman. He's come on in and been an immediate upgrade as a wide receiver two. I mean, as a wide receiver one, but would have been a quality wide receiver two last year opposite of Luther Burden. And he just said he wants to leave a legacy that's better than what the former number 3 did. So the way he's played so far, you got to be pretty impressed with. You also got to be pretty impressed with how Marquise Johnson and Donovan O, the freshman, have been able to be significant secondary elements to this passing attack. The confidence and the consistency of what we've seen from Prabula, this is going to be a challenge for Clayton White's defense because of they've had some opportunities where they just can't make plays in the backfield on a mobile enough quarterback to create second chance opportunities, which allows them to connect on those first downs. We saw it with Diego Pavia last week. How many times were they able to not bring him down behind the line of scrimmage, and then he would find an open receiver, get a fresh set of downs, constantly move the chains? That's going to be another major element. I think from the standpoint of South Carolina offensively, if you don't have Sellers out there, even if you do have Sellers out there, you have to have a secondary weapon. You have to, whether it be a trust factor and Michael Smith, a tight end, or Rasul Faison finally showing on up and being the running back that you envisioned when he signed on in from Utah State, Oscar Attaway going into his second year of the program, or better yet, you get Nick Harbor and insert one of these freshmen that you thought were so talented that you didn't need to go out in the portal and bring in another guy. They're stepping on up. But regardless, you cannot trust a concussion protocol and limited Lenore Sellers to have to be your first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and sometimes eighth option to win this football game. Because if you want to make this a battle, especially on the road with a surging Mizzou squad that has an identity and really is trying to make a statement once again. Again, we kind of are underrating Mizzou because we're talking about Georgia Tech and what they've done. We're talking about what Vanderbilt's been able to accomplish. And Mizzou, the AP poll was saying, okay, I mean, you're top 25, but you're nowhere near the college football playoff rankings. We're not going to give you respect. They may want to put pedal to the metal in this game. You're going to rely on the explosive plays. I think if you are South Carolina, you're going to rely on tempo if you're Mizzou. I think just the bottom line, and it sounds like a cop-out, if you don't have Lenore Sellers, it feels like it's going to be a lopsided game and get out of control pretty quickly because of you're going to turn the ball over with just punt returns. Vakari Swain, special teams for South Carolina. It's been a factor in their first 2 wins. I think it's going to have to be a factor in this game as well.
But before we do that, I will give some love to Sleeper. We play the Sleeper more or less game every single Wednesday. We'll do it again this week when the stats are out, when the picks are available. You can pair more or less of 2 or more players and win literally up to 1,000 times your money. Go to the Sleeper app, use our code CFA for 100% match up to $100. I was in there yesterday in an eliminator league. I've made it through 2 weeks of the NFL season. Not that impressive, but there have been weeks that I've lost week 1. So go check out the eliminator leagues. Go check out the pick'ems. Obviously, a lot of people have their fantasy football through the Sleeper app. Their score bug is great. They do a great job with just updating the scores of everything. I was watching Barcelona's score bug while I was watching Red Zone yesterday on the TV. So go check them out. Terms and conditions apply. Make sure you see their terms of use for details.
What's the likelihood Bo Perbula is the SEC Offensive Player of the Year once it's all said and done?
If he wins this game and he wins outright, I mean, I'd say right now he's the 3rd best quarterback in the SEC. I think John Mateer and Taylon Green have been a little bit more impressive, but it's very hard to argue outside of that Bo Perbula has not been as advertised. I mean, Tom, let me ask you, in State College, I got to grab my laptop charger after this so just ramble for a second. Do you look at this from a perspective of, hey, Drew Aller's a good kid, but our ceiling would be a little bit higher if we had Perbula still on the roster?
I freaked out this past week on my podcast, State of State, a Penn State football show, after Drew Aller underwhelmed against FCS Villanova. He's closer to Christian Hackenberg than he is Kerry Collins or Todd Blackledge in the history of Penn State football. I think he has all the physical gifts. There's just stuff between the ears where he just doesn't process very well. Cannon for an arm, tremendous arm talent like Hackenberg, but just makes some really interesting decisions. Sometimes interesting not being the best word when it comes to Hackenberg's pass. So Bo Perbula would have been a better fit in what Andy Kotelnicki wants to do offensively. That was proven last year, and I think it's being proven again this year. But I still think, to the points about Penn State, they'll be just fine. Ultimately, it's just a different type of ceiling with what the offense could do. Listen, I made the comparison to the days of Chase Daniel and Jeremy Maclin with this offense for Mizzou. It's not exactly the same, but they know exactly who their weapons are. South Carolina doesn't. And if you don't have Lenora Sellers healthy for this game, having a guy that's listed as a wide receiver starting a quarterback for you and asking him to throw nearly 30 times a game in their last outing against Vanderbilt, their total scoring against legitimate opponents has been 7 and 11. They hung 38 on South Carolina State. I do not like South Carolina's ability to keep up with Mizzou on the scoreboard. So give me the Tigers in this one.
I think that another thing that you got to realize is third down conversion rate is going to be really big.
Mm-hmm.
Vanderbilt averaged 50%. It was 25% for South Carolina. Penalties are going to play a big time deal. South Carolina had 8 for 85 yards. Naturally, if you take away the targeting call, it was 4 for 25. So that's kind of where we are when it comes to Vanderbilt's squad. Maybe Vanderbilt's a more polished team than Mizzou. I'm not saying that Mizzou is not a polished team. What I will say is that there has to be a game plan in practice this week that does not include Luke Doty as a starting quarterback. It could be Aaron Noland, could be somebody else, but you have to have something to where you can turn away from Doty if things aren't working out and go in a different direction. Is that going to be enough on the road against a surging Mizzou squad that is looking for that signature win at this point in the season opposite of the Border War? I don't think so. I think that Mizzou is, again, one of the more disrespected teams in college football. Boys, they're third in wins over the last 3 years. I mean, they're third in freaking wins in the SEC, and we treat them like a second-class program. I think that those days are kind of dwindling down. We're getting to the end of the rope. I think this is where you get a win, and you get a signature one. Not only do you win, but you cover. I got a final score of 30-20. I do think that you will see some fight in South Carolina. I just don't think it's going to be enough with or without Lenore Sellers.
Yeah, I probably would have picked, if there wasn't the concussion, I think the way that Missouri has looked this year and the way that South Carolina has looked this year, they're relatively even teams. I think I would pick Missouri in this either way. Now, I wouldn't pick a blowout if Sellers was there, but going on the road and you haven't looked that inspiring through most of the season, like I don't even think this is that hard. then you factor, like, I would guess the Sellers doesn't play. I've not heard anything. I've not talked to anybody. My guess would be that he isn't going to play or is extremely limited because of coming off of the concussion. So yeah, this is not even, I don't know. This is not even a tough pick. Now I like South Carolina and I wish they do well, but Missouri wins this by, I would say 17, 34-17 would I get. Yeah. I'll go with a nice even round number, 34-17 Missouri.
Hey, remember this again when you go rank them AP, Koki Riley, Haley Sawyer. they also beat South Carolina. So give them credit where credit's due. Oh, wait, you're just going to probably move South Carolina up even more than what you did last week.
Hopefully Haley's just done putting in ballots. Koki should be next, in my opinion. Mizzou, give me the Tigers 31-6. And here's the thing. I'll push back on something you said, Cole. This won't be a signature win if Lenora Sellers doesn't play, because all you're doing is beating the brand. You're not really beating South Carolina at full strength in 2025. So it'll feel good, but publicly, it'll be like, there'll be an asterisk next to it.
Of course they will. And you know what? That's fine, because once again, it is the brand of Mizzou football.